Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summum Bonum, Chapter 38. Chapter 38's title is Akrura's Arrival in Vrindavan, and we're beginning with text number 8. Yad Architam Brahma Bhavadir Surai Shriya Chadevya Munibi Sasatvatai Gocharayan Anucharastaradvane Yad Gopikanam Kucha Kunkuman Kitam. Translation: those lotus feet are worshipped by Brahma, Shiva, and all the other demigods, and by the goddess of fortune, and also by great sages and Vaishnavas. Upon those lotus feet, the Lord walks about the forest while herding cows with his companions. Those lotus feet are smeared with kumkum from the gopis' breasts. Now, without looking upon the screen, like on a book, can someone tell me, what did I just read? Something. What was the first sentence about?
Those lotus feet.
Those lotus feet. And tell us, who can tell us, what about those lotus feet? What's going on? Adi Purushapur is muted.
They're walking through the forest.
Walking through the forest. The first thing, they're worshipped
Worshipped by Lord Brahma.
Shiva. Who else?
All the demigods.
All the demigods. Anybody else?
The kumkum from the breast of the gopis on his lotus feet.
Yep. That's what gives that reddish color, because the kumkum is it's a plant that's like orange and red.
Goddess of fortune.
Say that again?
Goddess of fortune.
Goddess of fortune. Yes. And great sages too. Okay, we'll read it one more time. Those lotus feet are worshipped by Brahma, Shiva, and all the other demigods, and by the goddess of fortune, and also by the great sages and Vaishnavas. Upon those lotus feet, the Lord walks about the forest while herding cows with his companions. Those feet are smeared with the kumkum from the gopis' breasts. Okay, that's verse 8. Now we'll go verse 9. Dakshaminunam sukapo nasikam smita avalo karuna kanjalochanam mukandasya gudha lakavritam pradakshinam me pracharanti vai mriga. I shall surely see the face of Mukunda. Since the deer are now walking past me on my right. That ever happened? Adi Purusha, you're walking down First Avenue and there's some deer come to your right.
For 4 years, we walked the road from Bahulaban to Vrindavan every day, morning and night. And there's nothing on that road except forest and the river. And you see the deer all the time. And it's funny, many times they're on the right side. And when you say Hare, they spread their ears. Hare Krishna.
Who remember what happens when a lady's eye and her left arm and her left eye are twitching? What kind of sign is that?
Bad fortune?
Good fortune. This is
Uh-huh.
Rukmini had this.
Uh-huh,
If a
left eye.
yeah,
I
and
thought
if a man's left eye and left arm is twitching, bad fortune. It's got to be on the other side. So
okay,
Rukmini
not
was
the man.
when Krishna was just about to kidnap Rukmini. This happened. The left eye and left arm were twitching. So there's these different signs that come. And so here the deer are walking past me on the right. If you want a list of all kinds of bad signs, you have in the was it first canto when Arjuna is being asked about Krishna's disappearance, and they're saying that the she jackals are vomiting fire and all kinds of scary. So that face is framed by his curling hair. So he's hoping to see. He knows he's going to see that face of Lord Mukunda, because the deer are walking on the right. And how does that face look? Curling hair, which is beautified by his attractive cheeks and nose, his smiling glances, and his reddish lotus eyes. Very beautiful. Purport is a very small purport. Akrura saw an auspicious omen, the deer passing on his right, and thus he felt sure he would see the Supreme Lord. So there's a nice verse at Prabhupada. That's not Prabhupada, it's actually quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhuram Madhuram Asya Vibhor. Madhuram Madhuram Vapur Asya Vibhor. That the sweet, sweet is my sweet Lord's form, Vapur. Madhuram Madhuram Vadanam Madhuram. Sweeter still is his face, so fair. Madhugandhi medusmitema etadaho Madhuram 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 Madhuram. But his honey-scented, gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. So sweet, sweet is my sweet Lord's form. Sweeter still is his face so fair. But his honey-scented, gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. So Madhuram, Madhuram, Vapur, his form gets 2 sweets. His Vadanam, his face gets 3 sweets. And his Madhu Gandhi, his honey-scented smile, Smitam, smile, it gets the 4 sweets. Madhuram, 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 Madhuram. So here at Kura he has this not just hope, but conviction. He's going to see the Supreme Lord. This is going to be the most amazing thing. His smiling glances, his attractive cheeks and nose, his reddish lotus eyes, his beautiful curly hair. Prabhupada describes his curly hair is when Krishna is a child. There's one description: his curly hair is the color like what? What is the color?
Lotus?
Blackish blue, like the crow's feathers. It's got that blue shimmer on it. Okay, verse number 10. Apidya Vishnu manucham iyusho bharavataraya bhuvo nijechaya lavanyadamno bhavato palambanam mahyam nanasyat palam anjasa drishai. I'm going to see the Supreme Lord Vishnu, the reservoir of all beauty, who by his own sweet will has now assumed a human-like form to relieve the earth of her burden. This, there is no denying that my eyes will achieve the perfection of their existence. This is the devotee. He has great confidence in Krishna. Krishna is going to be there. He's also, and this is a whole meditation. How do you go to Vrindavan? We have to be in this meditation like Akrura. He's just fully absorbed in the joy of being close to Krishna.
You know, Akrura, here he is doing Kamsa's bidding, going to get Krishna so Kamsa can try to kill him. Yet he's an extraordinary devotee. And I've heard, maybe you can verify this, I can't remember where I heard this, that Akrura, when Krishna spoke, when the Lord Vishnu said, all right, everybody come and take birth on the earth to assist in my pastimes while I address all these demons that are overburdening the earth. So Akrura was one of the demigods, and he came and he thought, I don't want to be way over there. I want to be right where the action is. So I'm going to be right in Kamsa's court as one of his servants, so I can get first-hand look at this action between Kamsa and Krishna, killing Kamsa. So he's a great, great, great devotee, hidden as a servant of Kamsa, right? Because you don't expect somebody who's sent to Krishna to be killed, to be ecstatically glorifying Krishna and looking forward to seeing the Lord so sweetly. Right? Have you heard that before?
Not particularly, not that particular pastime, but
Doesn't it seem unusual that he'd be so thrilled to go see Krishna when he's doing Kamsa's bidding?
yeah. You have like another one was unusual was Ravana's brother.
All right.
And he's connected to many deities in South India, like the Ramanuja. There's a deity. I think it's Sri Ranganath. There was the story of Yamunacharya, and he very briefly, when he was a young man, when he was a young boy, there was a scholar who came to challenge his name was Kohala, and he challenged everybody, and everybody he challenged had to pay a huge tax, and if they didn't pay the tax, they would be subject to death. Because he was the king's court pundit, and he was very sharp, but he was also not very soft-hearted. And so one of the disciples of Kohala came to the ashram and said, "Hey, tell your stupid teacher, your stupid guru, to pay his tax. Otherwise, his time's up." And then this child, the 5-year-old child, said, "Tell your stupid teacher that I will defeat him, and we won't have to pay him any taxes. Tell him, bring a palanquin, have the king send a palanquin, and I'll come there and I'll defeat him in front of everyone." And so a palanquin was brought, and they brought this 5-year-old child to the king's court, and a great debate ensued. Now, when the queen saw this child, she was like, "Oh no, this kid's gonna win." And so she told, the Kshatriyas are very daring. She said, "I bet you this kid's gonna win. You want to make a gamble?" And she said, "If this kid doesn't win, I'll become my maid's maid." And he said, "This is a child." He said, "If this if this kid wins, I'll give him half my kingdom." And so the scholar Kohala, when he saw the kid, he started to laugh, and he said, "This little child, this is a small child. How is he going to defeat me?" And then the kid said, "Well, then a buffalo will defeat you. Must be something much bigger." So they started debating on various things and grammar, and then higher and higher, these like common things that go on in these debates. And so then the child presented 3 things, and that the scholar would have to support. And if he could not support these 3 things, then he would, that was the riddle. He has to support these 3 things. Now, if you're in the king's court, you can't insult the king. And he said, "It's okay. number one, the queen is a barren queen. Number two, the king is sinful. And number three, his wife, she is unfaithful. And so he said, these are ridiculous. I cannot support any of those things. These are crazy. These are ridiculous. You're just, presenting wild, this kind of wild argument. How can I support any of those things? And so number one, he quoted some obscure scripture saying that if the queen she has one child, she can also be called barren. And number two, the king is sinful because, of course, he is pious, but it is Kali Yuga, and the king takes 1/6 of the karma of his citizens, and it's Kali Yuga, so there are also sinful things that are going on. So he is, of course, pious, but because he is the king, he's taking 1/6. And the queen, of course, she is faithful, but her husband is a representative of all the devas. So she is married to 7 different men. She's married to Surya, she's married to Indra, she's married to Chandra, and their king and queen were all clapping like that. These are nice glorifications. And then this Yamunacharya, he became royalty, and in his royalty, he lost his Krishna consciousness, and he just got immersed in the opulent life. And he had an uncle named Natamuni that felt very sad about this change. So the uncle started to visit and give a type of spinach that had a power of raising the mode of goodness, sattva guna. He gave this spinach to one of the cooks of the king, and he would bring it every single day. And it's called Tudavalai, and it would make you very, very sattvic. So it would help change your consciousness. And so one day he didn't show up, Vedic Papai. Jeffrey Ackler writes in Vedic Papai. So one day he doesn't show up with the spinach. And so the king says, hey, where's that spinach? I really like that. He said, well, the man didn't show up today. He said, who is he? How much does he charge? And he says, oh, he doesn't charge anything. He just brings it because of his love for you. I said, okay, whenever he comes again, I want to see him. And so he went the next day, and he was called to see the king, who was young man Yamunacharya. And so Natamuni, he said, actually, I'm your uncle, and there's a great treasure you forgot. It's on an island surrounded by rivers, and a great demon comes every 6 months to look over this treasure. But it's yours. It is actually your treasure. They said, okay, I'll bring my army. We'll just go marching, and we'll go get this treasure. He said, no, you have to come alone. And so him and his uncle, they went to the Sri Ranganath to visit the temple, which is surrounded by rivers. It's like on an island. And he brought him in front of the deity. And he said, this is the treasure of your life. And that's when his life completely changed. The demon that comes to look over this treasure was, Vibhishan, the Ravana's brother. Every 6 months he comes and takes darshan of the Lord. So little detour there. Okay, so we are on verse 11. This is the verse that has a purport here. Yat ikshata ham rahito asyat sato swatejasa pasta tamo bida brahma mayayatman rachitaishtad ikshaya pranaksha dibi sada ne swa abiyate. He is the witness of material cause and effect, yet he is always free from false identification with them. So this is like Bhagavad Gita verses, chapter 9, text 4 on to like text 10 and 11, where Krishna's describing that he is involved in this material nature, yet he is completely in this unique position of being aloof. And like that example goes, Yatha kasyastito nityam vayu sarvatago mahan tata sarvani bhutani matstani padar. Just as the sky. So if you look at the sky, it's like the atmosphere is like a bowl, like a upside down bowl, and the wind is flowing through it freely. So there is a sense of freedom and independence, and then there's also a sense of control. And so how does one control something yet not be affected by that position of control? The only person who is in that situation is Krishna. Every one of us, if we take some control of something, if we try to manage something, we're affected by that position. But Krishna, he's in this unique position where he can be managing and completely unaffected. And Srila Prabhupada gave his own analogy. He said, just like me, I'm an insignificant human being. Srila Prabhupada said, I'm an insignificant human being, but because of my disciples' love for me, this whole society of Krishna consciousness is going on. Temples are opening, artiks are going on. Adipurusha is coming every day to the morning program. All these things are going on because of my disciples' love for me. So he said, and I'm just a human being. So what to speak of Krishna? So Krishna is saying that this whole material energy, all the energies are working for his pleasure. But he is not affected by that situation. He's not being entangled in that situation. So he's a witness of material cause and effect, yet he's always free from false identification with them. By his internal potency, dispels the darkness of separation and confusion. What was that? There's Brahma, that's the confusion, and Bida, like a beta, Achincha beta tattva, separation. The individual souls in this world who are manifested here, when he glances upon the material energy, indirectly perceive him and the activities of their life airs, senses, and intelligence. So here's the purport. And in the purport, Prabhupada's going to quote this very, very cool verse in the second canto. Also, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse on his purport. It's a very interesting verse. Purport. In this verse, Akrura establishes the all-powerful position of the Supreme Lord, whom he is about to see in Vrindavan. The false concept of separation from the Lord is described in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. Bhayam dviti abhinesha tasya shaditas apatasya viparyo smitihi. So bhayam, fear, dvitiya, this separation or duality. Abhinesha, this is material absorption. Viparyo, this is forgetfulness, a smriti. Or separateness and smriti, this is asmriti, a forgetfulness. All these things happen. Although all existence emanates from the absolute truth, Krishna, we imagine a quote unquote second thing. This material world is entirely separate from the Lord's existence. With this mentality, we try to exploit that second thing. So it's just like a kid goes into a little candy store and he doesn't see anybody's there. He's like, oh, nobody's. Nobody owns this place. I can just start taking everything for myself. Might just think in this way. So similarly, we enter this material world. There's nobody here. Nobody owns this place. This is, or even in the kind of in our conception that we see God in the kind of the West. There's a separateness between God and this world. God is superb. He is wonderful, but this world is profane and mundane, and there's this great duality. And with that mentality, we can be very exploitative of this world because we don't see it's actually no. This is Krishna's directly. This is Krishna's energy. This is Krishna's direct energy. With this mentality, we try to exploit that second thing for our sense gratification. Thus, the psychological underpinning of material life is the illusion that this world is somehow separate from God and therefore meant for our enjoyment. It is ironic that the impersonal philosophers, in their radical renunciation of this world, claim it to be utterly false and totally separate from the absolute. Unfortunately, this artificial attempt to divest the Lord of its divine nature, or in other words, its relationship to God, does not lead people to utterly reject it, but rather to enjoy it. I saw my friend Garuda, I think he's here also watching, I think maybe on YouTube, and he was working at the morgue, the county morgue. And so I was asking him, what is this? What is the consciousness that develops when someone sees, oh, death is coming for us. Everybody is going to die. Does a person become more induced towards like, oh, I should actually find out what's beyond death? No, as it says in the purport here. Rather, I should try to enjoy material energy as much as I can to the last moment. He said that was the mentality of the other workers. That this realization didn't really come. It does not lead people to utterly reject it, but rather, let me try to enjoy it. While it is true that this world is temporary and thus in one sense illusory, the mechanism of illusion is a spiritual potency of the Lord. Realizing this, we should immediately desist from any attempt to exploit this world. Rather, we should recognize it as God's energy. We actually give up our material desires when we understand that this world belongs to God and is therefore not meant for our selfish gratification. The word abhiyate here refers to the process of surmising the presence of the Lord through meditative introspection. This process is described in the second canto. So you should all look up this verse 2:235. Prabhupada gives a whole procedure how to realize the Lord, a whole procedure. So I'll read the verse and then we'll. Bhagavan sarva bhuteshu lakshita sarvatmana hari drisher bhudi abhi adibhir drashta lakshaner anumapakai. The personality of God, Lord Shri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul, and that this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from intelligence. So part of the first steps of the procedure. Let's see, I can read a tiny bit what Prabhupada says. Okay, procedure. Let's see. Verse. Okay, the procedure is as follows. Here's Srila Prabhupada. One can perceive one's self-identification and feel positively that he exists. So Jeffrey Ackler, can you feel it? You exist. But then you can also, with that, start to realize that you're not your senses. You're not your mind. This can be done with the intelligence. This is like inference, anuman. We start to realize that we're not the senses, we're not the mind. He can feel that the hand, leg, hair are all his bodily parts, but as such, the hands, leg, head cannot be identified with a self. So, and then you could also, if you're not your hand, you're not your leg, then how is the hand, how is the leg moving? So this is all these actions. We start to realize that it's like I'm not my hand, but somehow it's there's this responsive quality between my desires to a certain degree. Like I might want to fly, it doesn't happen, or I might want to, dunk a basketball, and it still doesn't happen. I'll maybe jump a few feet, not high enough. So I have some desire, and then the body responds, and so so one realizes he's not the body, he's not the mind, and then you also realize that there's intelligence. Prabhupada says form direction. It's actually intelligence is coming from something called the super self, that we're taking help from something. Like, have you ever had some not just even the everyday things, but even you have special circumstances where there's intelligence that's given in your heart, and you know that this is something, this came from somewhere special. This is this is a guidance that I'm listening to, I'm taking advantage of. It's not my own intelligence. Like in the cartoon, you has a little angel on one shoulder, and then you got your mind on the other shoulder. So you have this Paramatma, the super soul. He's giving special intelligence. Like, for example, I was living on a Synchrotron bus, and we stopped in Alachua, Florida in year 2000. And the bus parked. And within a very short time, I noticed that ants started to come from the wheel up the front of the stairs. And then they started to go down the hallway. We had turned the bus into an RV. So it's wood floors, kitchen, and a shower. So there was only 2 rows of seats, and then the rest was this laminate wood floor and wood lockers, and then you have this big temple room with Gorni Tai in the back. They're always dancing in the bus. I was being shaken back and forth. It looked like they're dancing, and then the laminate floor ends, and then you have the kitchen and the shower. No bathroom, just a kitchen and a shower. So in order to install the seats, there's this kind of rivet that goes down the whole length of the bus. But when you put the laminate floor on top, it makes that into a tunnel. And so the ants went down the hallway, and then they took a left. They went into the tunnel. They ended up safely at the very end of the tunnel, and they went into the garbage can. And there was a nice apple core for them waiting in the garbage can. I was like, where did this intelligence come from? How did they know how this bus was made up? That, if I go through this little tunnel, there's a safe route all the way to the end. So sometimes we find this in nature. We find that animals, the elephant and the ant, all are fed. They're given a special intelligence to find things that is oftentimes beyond their sense of perception, that there's a director. And unless the humans are messing things up to a great degree, then you don't find that there's the ants, the elephants, as Srila Prabhupada, the elephant eats so much, the ant eats very little, but both are being supplied. Bhima has his hand up. Yes, Bhima Prabhu.
Haribol Prabhu, as a person who lives on a farm and watches the ants as well, we find that it's through the power of association that these ants find out. When one ant, which is a scout, goes and finds a source of food, they immediately go back to the nest, and in that travels, they will leave a path, a scent path, and then all the other ants follow that scent path. So this is like sort of an advanced devotee like yourself who is relishing the Leela, whether it be Krishna's and Yakura's pastimes, or standing in front of Rangana as Vibhushan, or even an ant on a bus heading towards Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. we see that that your absorption, you have left a path for us to follow, that we should also become absorbed in Leela, so that we should never have trouble having to remember Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Now, one thing that I noticed about this ant, that this was actually 5 or 10 minutes the ant ended up there. So that was what was the surprising part for me, is that how did they find that in such a short time? Like not only the fruit, but the safe route. There's many, you could have just gone straight across the floor and went around the side of the floor, but they went to this special little tunnel. Perhaps an ant went through that tunnel before, I don't know, but it seemed like he had this like a MapQuest, Google Maps, just
at some point in time. At some point in time, an ant had been on that path on your bus, and even if you traveled across 5 states, that scent would be there. So that's what they're following. A parampara, Prabhu. Parampara.
Adipurusha Prabhu has his hand up.
Yeah. So gosh, trying to unmute here.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sometimes people say the birds know how to go south, or the monarch butterflies go from Canada all the way to Mexico due to instinct. And Prabhupada says, what is this instinct? It's Krishna. It's Krishna. Instinct is nothing. It's just a word that they make up because they don't know that Krishna is giving them intelligence for that. And one thing, you were mentioning how Akura was so enthusiastic and delighting and anticipating seeing Krishna, and how he was actually going to Vrindavan and already being in a devotional mood. And the antithesis of that you mentioned was the enjoying spirit, the tendency to enjoy, and how sometimes we become distracted from the higher goal due to worldly pleasures. We've been in Thailand, and in the Buddhist monasteries and the brahmachari ashrams, they always have a skeleton hanging there. They have a dead body, and you said, well, sometimes you'll see in the morgue the dead body, and you'll think, well, I better enjoy before that happens to me. But with the proper conclusion, you think, well, what's the use of this body? I'm not the body. And David Mritaswamy actually brought us in Taipei, Malaysia, in Taiwan. He brought us to a morgue. I don't know if you've ever been in a morgue, and they have these drawers. You pull the drawer out, and there's a body in there, with a little tag on the big toe. And he was trying to give us that experience because we were devotees, and so he went in the morgue and asked the director if he could show the students the body. Oh. Showed some old body of elderly person. He said, no, we want to see young body, and it's very sobering if you really have spiritual purport to look at a corpse and think, yeah, I'm not. That's not me. That's just the body. I'm just. Anyway, just rambling around.
So, yeah, the sages that hang out at the burning ghats, they say, they have this phrase: burning is learning. You see all the cremations that are going on.
Of course, it's possible to miss the point. There's that story Prabhupada tells. The man was brought to that place. What's the name of that town?
It was a Haridwar, or no.
Varanasi.
Varanasi, yeah.
Burning ghats are on the river, and he said he was crying, and his companion was thinking, oh, just see, he's seeing the pain of the people that are losing their relatives, and he's becoming sober, and he's really getting spiritually directed. That's why he's crying. And he said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "I'm crying because I've been in the cloth business, but I should have been in the wood business. Look at how profitable it is. They're burning all this wood. They're selling wood." So you can miss the point. I should have been in the wood business. God. So it's not always that we come to the right conclusion, but by the grace of the spiritual master, Krishna sends Guru to, like that ant scout, he sends Guru and Sadhu to explain to us how to see these things and how to process it, come to the conclusion. Therefore, devotional service to Krishna. How wonderful is Krishna that he arranges. Hey, Yamuna Jayamaka just walked. Look at this incredible smile. Look at this girl. She's such a devotee of Krishna.
And so we have here, this is Akrura, he's going to Vrindavan with great eagerness. But Srila Prabhupada, he was in Vrindavan, and he was nicely situated in Vrindavan, but he left all of that to bring this Krishna Bhakti to the entire world. Radhanath Swami met with Vrindavan Chandra, Srila Prabhupada's son. He said, "How did you feel? There's, having a send-off to Srila Prabhupada, and he's leaving India." He said, "I felt so proud of my father, but I didn't think he would come back. I thought he would, go there, preach to 4 or 5 people, and he would stay there. I didn't know that he'd come back with the whole, this such a grand, thing. That came back with so many devotees, and it blew up in India." So Kuru he is so ecstatic to be in Vrindavan, and Srila Prabhupada was completely in ecstasy in Vrindavan. But the devotees heard that even while in Vrindavan, there were some who witnessed Srila Prabhupada crying at Rupa Goswami Samadhi, begging to get that mercy to carry out the mission that he was given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Sometimes we might think that it's important that we always have a nice peaceful situation, but here we see the devotees go through great anxiety in the service of Krishna, and this Krishna anxiety is actually it's a great benediction. We don't want to always just opt into what is safe and comfortable and safe and free from distress. Here, one of the examples is that he was fearless. Bhakta Will has a question. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Let me just lower my hand here. Okay. So, in the chat, there were some questions by Scarlett, and I had maintenance come in here and clean up, so I lost contact with you. Were those questions answered with Scarlett?
I'm not sure. I'm on the phone, so I can't really see the chat so well.
Okay, the questions.
Oh, Billy.
Let's see, the questions are basically, it says, "Please forgive me just to understand right. For men left is bad fortune, and for women right is bad fortune."
Yeah, the twitching of the right eye and the left eye and left arm for Rukmini. You have to turn on mute because it's echoing. Well, you have to turn the mute on because it's echoing.
Okay, you
Speakerphone on.
So yeah, you have left eye and left arm. Rukmini's left eye and left arm was twitching, indicating great good fortune. Now we just have a few minutes, and there's one paragraph left for the purport. Akura states that the Lord is free from egoistic pride. Now I didn't give the 10 minutes, but we all kind of mixed in. Akura states that the Lord is free from egoistic pride affecting ordinary embodied souls. That the Lord appears to be embodied like everyone else. Therefore, someone might object to the statement that he's free from egoism. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this puzzle as follows. How can we distinguish being free from the false ego and being afflicted by it? If a living entity is situated in the body, argues the objector, he will encounter the unhappiness and confusion that occurs within it. This is a person living in a house, whether he's attached to it or not, can avoid experiencing the darkness, warmth, and cold that occur within it. This objection is answered as follows. By the internal potency of the Lord, by his internal potency, the Lord dispels the darkness of ignorance along with the separateness and bewilderment it produces. So guna antapravishta abhati viganevna vijimbita taya vilashiteshveshu guneshu gunavaniva. So Lord, he enters this world, and he enters within the gunas. Taya vilashiteshveshu guneshu gunavanivan antapravishta abhati. So he appears to be within it. Viganena vigimbita. But he's fully in the spiritual state, fully conscious, not affected.
Hare Krishna. Nice to meet you. Govinda.
we going to have afterglow?
Yes, Bhima Prabhu. Okay, welcome to the afterglow. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, we have a question in the chat. Let me read. May I humbly ask what is his reddish lotus eyes in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:38-9 translation mean? I mean, how is it beautiful? The eyes are reddish. Isn't that anger?
Yeah, like you see Lord Jagannath also, he has this, always has this red, it's black, white, and then there's this red on his eyes. It's also kind of the eyes that appear in a like intoxicated, semi-intoxicated state. So Krishna has this ecstatic, loving feeling in his eyes. It's like expressed in his eyes.
Yeah, Krishna is ecstatic. And this is not Disney standard. This is Bhagavatam standard. The eyes are reddish and it's beautiful. Okay. Bhima Prabhu,
And even his feet are beautiful. Even his feet are beautiful. I know most time most of us are not so interested in looking at people's feet. But Krishna's feet are absolutely, you could stare at them for millions of years and never.
And they're reddish too, and very soft. Bhima Prabhu, I'm picturing your feet.
Yeah.
Would you like to afterglow?
I wanted to. Oh, somebody's got an echo on. Haribol? That's better. Very quickly, we talked about Nityananda Chandra Prabhu talked about these last moments of death. What are decisions? What happens? Do we simply, if we have a last hour before we die? And I remember, what would we do? And as devotees, I remember asking Maharaja, talking to Radhanath Maharaj about this when I was a bhakta. And he asked me, and this was, of course, after several months, learning the philosophy. And, one of the first things that we learn fundamentally is that at the hour of our death, we should be thinking about Krishna. So he had asked me, if you couldn't be with others, if you were alone, what would you do the last hour of your death? He asked me once. And I said, oh, chant Hare Krishna, Maharaj, just making sure that I said the right answer. And Maharaj says, is this truly what you'd be doing the last hour of your death? And I said, oh, yes, I would chant Hare Krishna on the last hour of my death. If that was it, if there was nobody else around, that's what I would be doing, be calling out to Krishna. And Maharaj said, well, whatever you do, whatever you think you would do at the last hour of your death should be the first thing that you do every morning. And I always remembered that as when I wake in the morning, especially as you get older, you're surprised sometimes when you wake up. But yeah, that's always been a motivating thing for me about, whatever you do, whatever you think you would do, if nobody was around and this was it, this is the foxhole, you'd be crying out to Krishna. And so Maharaj said, then let that be the first thing that you do every moment of your life. So I was reminded by that, by this discussion. Hare Krishna.
Radhanath Maharaj brought the point home so nicely. Okay, would anyone else like to contribute to class? I have one more experience. I can share it.
Sorry. Let me mute myself. Sorry.
Okay, any more realizations? I have one. They took us to morgue one time when we were studying criminal justice. And the body, it was an old man. And the surgeon or whatever you call that doctor that cuts up the bodies, So the skull was open, and he took the brain out, and the brain looked like a piece, like a cloth that you mop the floor with. And then he casually threw it back in the skull and closed the skull. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. And then Adi Purshapu, I'm sorry for this graphic description, but that was a major turning point on my path towards spiritual search. That made me search for something else, for some other answers other than the morgue table. And when I saw that brain, I realized it can be me. It cannot be me. And the body, it's not the ultimate reality. That brain that looks like a claw. All right, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I would like to end on a good note. Would anyone like to give us some good note, some positive?
Ananda Bihari, when they open up your skull, Goloka Vrindavan will come out. No brain whatsoever with you. Just Goloka Vrindavan.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah. Manisha Prabhu is rejoicing. Okay. All right. So I have a wonderful.
I just want to share, Adi, with the crazy weather yesterday. Adi Purusha Prabhu and his team are still out distributing prasadam to the people of New York City.
Hallelujah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Adi Purusha Prabhu is unstoppable.
Yeah.
Das Prabhu is assisting him. Angel Prabhu is also unstoppable, just like Adi.
I can't wait to get back. I really can't wait to get back. I miss it.
Yeah, they need a good qualified MC, Bhakta Billy, the right devotee for the job. Right.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. It was nice spending this morning hour with everybody. This is what I personally want to be doing on my deathbed, being in class, hearing about Krishna. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, thank you very much. Burning is learning. That's my takeaway. Burning is learning. I hope I learned something before I get burned. Okay. Hare Krishna. I'm sorry about all these morbid analogies and points towards the end. The Krishna consciousness is joyful. It's joyful. Radhanath Swami Maharaj once said that the highest material realization is death. That's the highest material realization, thinking about death. But the highest spiritual realization is the feeling of separation that gopis feel towards Krishna. So we don't stop at death. Bhakti is a very positive path. Okay? Hare Krishna.